We are live. Hello, hello. It's Michaela, host of the Children's Book Marketing Podcast. I have joining with me today Mr. John. Mr.
Hey,
John is a very important person in our children's book author space. He is one, and he is also a librarian. So, what we're going to talk about today is a lot of exciting stuff. Before we get started and jump right into everything, Mr. John, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
yes, my name is John like Jr., but the babies affectionately named me Mr. John when I started working in a Potomac Community Library in Virginia. I am a librarian, graduated from Syracuse University December 2019. I'm a youth librarian and I do storytelling. I'm an author as well. And I like to dabble in genealogy as well. So I have a lot of interests and I try to put them all together and make everything work. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being on here. That makes me wonder because you've got a few things brewing. In
Hmm.
addition to being a librarian, what does your day look like day to day? Because when you're in the library, you see librarians and they're busy doing something, but you don't exactly know what.
So my day, so I'm a youth librarian, like I said, and what I do mostly in my branch is at least is try to make it comfortable for the parents and the students that come in later. Oftentimes, what my day looks like is me kind of like straightening up the youth area. If it's a Monday, I do story times on Monday. If we do them outside right now, though, so I come in, I get the outside area set up, I walk around, find my books, and then I'll wait for them at 10:30 to go do story time. I also make sure that we have craft kits made and can keep them stocked. I also create like activity sheets. Now I could I could just like go online and like download some activity sheets, but it was like that would no, I have to create them. Like I had to put something together like highlights. Like y'all know highlights.
Oh, yeah.
Um so I like to use like some highlights and I like it to be like a little more multifaceted. So I make some activity sheets for like preschoolers. I make some for the teens or the students. Helping patrons, that's always a part of the job. Helping patrons, making sure that the library is safe and clean and all of those things. The other day, the urinal started overflowing. I had to go into the bathroom. I had to mop up water. So,
So you do
a lab,
everything.
yeah, a librarian is in charge of the people and in charge of the building. So,
Gotcha.
that's a lot of the things that we do or that I do on a daily
Gotcha.
basis.
So we went to the library a couple months ago, and there was this really fun activity
Hmm.
where there were different dinosaurs stashed all over the library.
Okay.
And you had to find one on this check sheet.
Hmm.
And once you found the all of the dinosaurs, you were complete. And we did this while we were waiting on the passport service to be available.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, that saved the entire day. And whoever in the library had that idea, whew, I
Look, and
can't
I'm matter of
imagine.
fact, I'm gonna write that down. So
Take
about
that one with you.
toy dinosaur scavenger
Yeah.
hunt.
That
That's what that
dinosaur
was.
scavenger hunt made it
Yeah.
so much easier, and at the time, I'm pretty sure my son was still yeah, he was 4 years old at the time,
Hmm.
and there's no getting him to sit still, especially not at the library because he knows
Yeah.
it's a place to have a good time, and
Yeah.
one of the things that I enjoy so much about the library is that it's loaded with resources,
Hmm.
loaded with awesome things and really nice people. So we won't be near Savannah anytime soon, but
Oh
when
man.
we do come there, we know we have a library friend to come and visit.
That is right. That is right. All you gotta do is ask for me.
Yeah. So when you decided to become a librarian, did you realize that you were entering a field that is as underrepresented with men who look like you?
Yes and no. Like I had been when I've been working in the library field uh, for a good 7 or 8 years, and I've always had those um, moments where I look around and notice that it's just me. I remember one time we were having, this is when I was working in Virginia Beach, we were having like an all staff meeting training type of situation, and they were going over the demographics of the county. And I was sitting with my friend, she's Filipino, and I'm black, and so they put the demographic up, and she was like, oh, look, there I am. Because it was like Filipino, 21 to 25, female. And it was like one. And I was like, oh, well, hold on, let me look. And then I looked up there and it was like black, male, 21 to 25. Like, oh, there I go too. And so, like, it's really always been like that. But when I actually went to get my degree, it still never really dawned on me that it wasn't as many um, black men, you know, that I just never really thought that it was that few, but it is a very few that I've learned recently.
Yeah. Now, because there are so few, do you feel at all a sense of duty or responsibility to the book selection, to the field in general, to elevate, or to do you feel like there's pressure?
Well, the one thing about the library field, we are all about diversity and inclusion and being representative of your community. That's just librarians in general. As a black librarian, or as a black librarian, it depends on my community. Right now, I'm in a community where most of the community is really white, and we do a fabulous job of highlighting black books and black resources, because oftentimes I look in and I see maybe like 50% of the books that are like on display are for black and brown kids, even though 80% of the community, 88% of the community is white. So I try to do a good job of being being a good steward of my community, as well as making sure that everyone is represented well.
Do you feel like you have enough books that help to further your representation initiatives?
So, man, right now, like since the last few years or so, there's so many books now coming out that are, black and brown representation. And the funny thing is, so I was reading, we get this book at the library, it's called the Horn Book. And it'll have like all of the books that are coming out. And a lot of times you'll look at the Horn Book and you'll see, just like regular books that you would always see. Well, one month, maybe like last September, I opened up the Horn Book, and I'm telling you, like the first 20 pages was all like black books. It's all black and brown books. And I was like, this is amazing. And so then after I put that book down, I picked up another book, and the book was about hurricanes, like what you do. It was a fiction book, but it was a fiction book about what you do during a storm, what happens before the storm, during the storm, after the storm. So it's all it's really about is what you do during a storm and how you act. And I was looking at the book, and the book had black characters. And I was looking at this book, and I was like, you know what? Like, these publishers could have been putting black characters on these books the entire time. They just weren't doing it for whatever reason. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so many books in the library where it's not about race, it's not about culture, it's just about flying a box down a hill. It's just
Yeah.
about kids playing in the forest or playing with leaves. And it's like it doesn't have to be anything, but they just were never being portrayed as being black or brown kids.
Mhm.
But now, within these last few years, the publishers have gotten the message. They have gotten the
Yes.
message, so they're telling their illustrators, hey, you need to, this one needs to be, needs to be black and brown characters. So right now, it's not really that difficult for me to put black and brown books out at all. Now, maybe like easy readers for those who got kids who like 3 and 4, they're just starting to get to read and get confident. I
Mhm.
think that there's an opportunity there for
Hmm.
more books with black characters, black and
Mhm.
brown characters to be on there. But as far as picture books,
Mhm.
no. Picture books, young adult books, oh no, they are coming out in full force.
Good, good.
Hmm.
Now, you mentioned the horn book, and I've heard about it before.
Hmm.
How do authors get their books to be accepted into the horn book?
Now that I don't know. That I don't know. I would have to look that up. I'm sure you can go to their website and what see about what it would take. However, the horn book I would say is more like a brand name type of book, type of situation. Like your book is going to have to be a published book, professionally published book, more than likely
Mhm.
to get into the horn book. You're going to have to be someone that's with Harper Collins, Penguin, Scholastic
Mm.
in order to get into the horn book. That's just based on my limited knowledge of the process, because that's all of the books that I see when I
Mhm.
open them. I don't even remember seeing a self-published section in the horn book.
Hmm.
That's usually something that you've been accepted. Your manuscript has been accepted to be published, and they take it on from there.
Gotcha. Now, this is probably a stretch, but is there an equivalent of the horn book for self-published and independently published authors?
Now, when I was looking for ways to better market my book, I I read somewhere about the Kirkus reviews.
Mhm.
Um, and Kirkus reviews is a professional website. They review your book. They give it a honest review, an unbiased review. So that means like you submit your book to them, and you may get a bad review. And if you get a bad review, you don't have to. They don't have to put it on their website if you don't want them to. But if you want to use any of the review in any kind of marketing material, then you have to let them put it on the website. But a part of that, Kirkus, they have a couple of books and magazines that they will highlight your. You can pay, and all of this you got to pay. You can pay to have them put your book into the next season's list of books that are coming out. That's one that I do know about as far as for self-publishers.
Yeah. Kirkus Review, among others, are, for anyone who's not familiar, sites that, or I should say sites, they all have online websites, but these companies will review your book. They'll give you a non biased review. And the review that you receive is one that can work well if you get a good
Hmm.
review with
Or,
communicating to readers who stands behind your book as
hmm,
being one that's worth reading. Now, you've got that category of reviews, but then you also have user reviews. They're
hmm,
not exactly the same and they can be used in a similar way, but depending on who you are, you'll feel like one set of reviews carries more weight than the other.
hmm. And I can say this just in talking with my collection management people.
Mhm.
When I first, cause I'm new to Savannah. I'm in Live Oaks Public Library now in Savannah, Georgia, and just
Mhm.
talking to them during the onboarding process. They use reviews. And so it's easy when they can go into their system that they're using, and that system has pulled in reviews, from these trusted sites, and they can see the reviews. Um, and so that's good for them. It helps to make their decision quicker and easier. But they don't, it's not necessarily something where it's the end all be all. librarians are beholden to their community first and foremost. Um, your review would have to be like horrible for them to not purchase a book if you have 30 or 40 people. I mean, not even 30 or 40. If you get 10 people come to the library and say, hey, library, we want this book, they're going to buy it. But more than likely, they'll get it if one person comes. If one person goes to the library and say, can you get this book for the system? Like they'll buy it. Like that's what the librarians do. But when they're making their own decisions, like, okay, we need to get some books about emotions or some books about the holidays, or they'll go and they'll search books about the holidays, and they'll see what's out there, and it'll have the reviews listed already. And so, like, when I was making a decision on where I would go, who I would go with to publish my book, I ended up going with Ingram Spark because they kind of put my book in those areas where it can be found in their system. And then I went and also had my book reviewed on Kirkus so that they can pull that information and see that information just to make it easier. But yeah, but reviews by or reviews for the collection management department are not the end all be all.
Mhm. So, with regard to reviews that are evaluated when decisions are made, do third party distributor reviews also factor in addition to those trusted journals and review sites that libraries can count on?
I mean, the librarian is going to use whatever they can find. They
Mhm.
can, so the website reviews. If you have, so I was a part of a clubhouse recently, and we were talking about this same situation, the same thing about reviews and self-published books. And what you may not know is a lot of librarians, a lot of collection management librarians are on Instagram using, bookstagrammers reviews,
Hmm. Uh-huh.
respected bookstagram. So you can, if you go on, the Instagram or something like that, and follow some bookstagrammers, um, you can send them a book and have them review it. So it's becoming a lot easier for you to be able to again get your book out there and get it known if you're
Mhm.
willing to send it, if you're willing to take time, take the money to send it out to people and have them review it. Okay, like here's where I can go to get more information, because that's all they really want. It's just
Mhm.
more information about the book, um, as opposed to having the book with them so they can read it.
Right, gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm curious, once the process begins, is there a standard set of criteria that librarians evaluate as they're deciding what books to source?
Um, does my community want it?
Mhm.
Um, is someone like me, say like a librarian, a youth librarian, an adult librarian, or am I telling the collection department, hey, like I want this book from my community? I mean, really, that is the number one. That's the number one factor. Um, I don't. I think maybe people think about whether their book should be hardcover or not. Like, I don't think that really plays into it as much. Is more about, is anybody in the community asking for this book? Um, and this is really because for the self-published, because for the published books, they can find them. They
Mhm.
can go in and find them. They can do a search for what they want and they can find them. But for self-published, if you have people asking for it, if you have adult librarians saying, "Oh, I need this book in my system,"
Mhm.
they're gonna put that book in. That's always the number one criteria, is the community. What does the community want?
This is speaking to the evolution of your journey,
Hmm.
where somebody who might just hear this podcast for the first time just heard you say something that
Hmm.
they didn't even consider before. Well, I had one of those moments when I did my Kickstarter back
Hmm.
a year ago right now. Friends and family who asked how could they support, even if they didn't back the campaign, were communicating with me because here it is, I'm
Mhm.
front and center saying, I've got this thing that I want to do, and I'm asking for them to back it in some
Yeah.
way, whatever way that is. And it turns out that I had a friend who I have been friends with since I was maybe 13 years old,
Mhm.
who works presently for the largest library system in the state of
Mhm.
Ohio, which is where I'm
Okay.
from. I had no idea. So I naturally, when she says, "Oh, well, I work for the library," it's like, okay, there's the local library, but then there's the county library. And she was
Mhm.
explaining to me that she works for the county library.
Mhm.
So now this leads me to ask some more questions about whether you should focus on getting into one or the other based on where you live or based on something else.
Well, when you go, they're gonna consider it for your. So if you go to your local library and you make a connection with the youth librarian loves your book, says, you know what, I'm gonna talk to our collection management team. We're gonna get them to purchase the book. They're going to make sure that they get the book for that branch. Like make sure that if they only end up getting one book is going to go to that branch.
Mhm.
But they'll consider it for the entire system. And so you don't really have to go to each like library to do that.
Mhm.
You could just go to your local one. When I was talking to my friend in collection management, they was like, a lot of people don't know they could just do a suggested purchase. Like you could do a suggested purchase because they have to look at every suggested purchase that comes. That's something you could do, at home,
Mhm.
online. You can just type it up, suggest a purchase. Doesn't matter if it's from you. It's not a big deal. They'll look at it and they'll, make a decision and they'll purchase it. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's
Go
the
ahead.
really critical opportunity, I think, for
Mm-hmm.
authors because we often get people who say, I want to help, but they don't know how. And when the question comes up, should I be on Facebook? Should I be on Instagram? Should I be wherever, ever? Most of us all have some connection to lots of people that know us and that have known us since
Mm-hmm.
we were whoever we grew up becoming through Facebook. And one of the key utilizations is to ask the people who are connected to us on Facebook, can you go request this book? Now, I know
Yeah.
people who do that for Barnes and Noble. And if
Mm-hmm.
Barnes and Noble and other physical brick and mortar bookstores are your thing, then go for it. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's a matter of you having somebody who frequents the library already
Yeah.
anyway, that ask is not outside of the realm of somebody being able to say
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, it's advocacy, and it's not even that it has to be someone that the library knows. Like
Mhm,
when you come into the library, you're the community, you're a patron to us. Even I don't even know where you're coming from, but if you come into the library and say, hey, I want to see if you all have this book, and we'll look at, oh, we don't have it, do you want us to buy it, do you want us to purchase it? Well, yeah, y'all
mhm.
can do that. Well, yeah, yeah, we'll put it in for you. I mean, it's that simple, really. So to have advocates, people who are just willing to go to the library, wherever their library is, and say, "Hey, do you have this book?" And if they don't, well, can you purchase it? Yes, like yes. I mean, it's that easy. And just,
Yeah.
I mean, you talking about the Barnes and Noble thing. I think that was one of the famous stories of that is like Elan Harris. Like that
Mhm.
was the one thing that he had his friends. Like he just had them go to the bookstore and say, hey, do you have the Elan Harris book? And like that's how it does. It's the same way. It's the same way at the
Wow.
library. If you have enough people coming and asking, and again, you could have one person come and ask, but if you have enough people come and ask, that book's going to end up in that system.
Yeah, well, let's talk about how books end up in the system.
Hmm.
And I say let's talk about it because you mentioned Ingram Spark, which is like a book aggregator that distributes books to lots of places that want books,
Hmm.
be it electronic, ebook versions, or versions of the book that are hardcover or paperback, printed on
Mhm.
demand through their print partners. And there are a lot of places that an Ingram Spark or a Book Baby or other types of book aggregator services make available.
Mhm.
So if somebody decides they want to ask for a library to carry their book, is the library making that purchase directly from the individual author or through the aggregator service that says, I list all of these books.
Mhm.
Here's the one that you're asking for?
They'll make it from what I've seen, they go to their source first.
Hmm.
And so like Ingram is a source, a place that you can go and purchase books that they'll use. And
Right.
then but then they, spun off and said, well, we're gonna do print on demand as well. So they're gonna go to their source first, and then they're just gonna, if it's not on their source, then they'll just keep looking until they find where they can get the book. So if the book is only available on your website, then they'll get the book from your website. So if that is you, then yeah, they'll get the book from you. But first thing they're going to do is go to whichever service they're using, and they're going to look for it. And, they're going to again try to do some research on what the book is about, try to find some reviews. If they end up at your website to find reviews, you have the reviews on your website from different people, and
Hmm.
okay, this looks like a good book. They're gonna
Yeah.
purchase it from your website if they can't purchase it from their partner.
Will they make it known who they are and that maybe they are looking for a discount?
Well, now I guess this is me thinking about how it normally works, like that wholesale discount. I guess if you have all your books at home and you're charging the full price for your book, they probably would make themselves known if they want to
Mhm.
buy, a bunch of them, to
Mhm.
try to get a better deal. For me, again, dealing with Ingram, they could just go to Ingram and it's already listed at the wholesale discount for them.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I can't answer that one completely.
Yeah.
I would have to assume that, they don't want to pay they don't want to pay full price. But again, if it's something that they want, they're gonna get it. If the author has a relationship, if they build a relationship with the library,
Mhm.
I believe anything is possible. Um, I feel like they're gonna use again. I feel like they're gonna do what's easiest for them. So
Mhm.
if it's easier for them, they're working. Then it's I mean they're trying to get your book in, but they have bunches of books that they have to get for different libraries. So they're working.
Mhm.
So they're gonna do what's easiest for them. But if they have a relationship with you, then they'll go and they'll do what you guys work out. Is
Yeah.
what I'll say. So the thing is to cultivate a relationship with your librarians, and let them know like, oh, I have these, maybe special edition books, or I don't know if library necessarily cares about your book being autographed or anything like that.
Mhm.
But if you have some other things, that are available for your book that you're not just going to get from Ingram, I believe they'll work with you to do that. But you got to build that relationship with them.
Gotcha. So I hear a
Hmm.
lot of really good insights sharing here, Mr. John. You've told us to cultivate good relationships with our librarians, just in general, not
Hmm.
other than to say that you're a patron, and to work through the advocates in our community of friends and
Hmm.
family.
Yeah.
You also said get reputable reviews.
Yes.
Reputable reviews. Now we might have to pause here for a minute because I saw a little somebody come into mama's office.
They closed the door.
Oh, lucky me. Oh, you can always expect him to make an appearance at some point. And he is welcome to do so because he lives here. So I don't get upset with him when he does that. But then something else you told us is that Working through our community of online connections is also helpful, particularly as it relates to bookstagrammers. And that right there, for anybody who's not paying attention to their social media, who's not updating it, and who is not confident with their ability to communicate on social media is, if nothing else, that's one reason right there
Hmm.
to connect with people who have the ability to get more of your book visible to other people.
That has been huge for me. Connecting with people, and I use Instagram more than anything. Connecting with teachers, with
Mhm.
school librarians, public librarians on Instagram. I mean, I like when I published a book, I make sure I put some books aside where I was like, okay, I'm sending this book to this person. I'm sending books. I'm not asking them to pay. I'm sending these books off to them,
Mhm.
so that they can read them, so they can introduce them to their following, their people. I'll just by doing social media networking and connection and building relationships. I was able to get my book to San Jose, Costa Rica, and
Mhm.
I was like, somebody was just like, "Oh, like I love this book," and it's a librarian and works at a English speaking school in
Mhm.
Costa Rica, and
Wow.
she saw the books and she loved the books and she was like, I want to get some books and can you come on and do a story time?
Nice.
So I did a story time visit, virtual story time visit in Costa Rica, and it was all because of just sharing my books, sending it out. They saw the book on one of the Bookstagrammers pages. And I mean, it's wonderful. Another person that you would want to get in contact with for sure especially about getting your books into libraries, is Casey Boyd. Her name
Mhm.
is Boss Librarian on
Yes.
Instagram. She's
Yes.
on Twitter as well as Boss Librarian. She is very passionate about getting books for Black and Brown
She
characters and about Black and Brown matters into libraries, and she's always trying to introduce her librarians and her network to more and more Black and
Yeah.
Brown books. So it's so many people. Richard Ashby on
Mhm.
Instagram, he's Sidewalk Librarian. Another one. He's always asking for self-published books. Like, send me your book and I'll read it and I'll review it on.
Yep.
He'll put it out there. And so that's what you do. That's what you do when you're on there. Just kind of like follow librarians,
Yeah.
follow those bookstagrammers, those hashtags, and see the people who have the network that your book falls into.
Mhm.
Because some of them only read like young adults, some of them only read teen or whatever. But you'll
Yeah.
find the ones that if you have a picture book, you find those that that do picture books, and you send it off. Sometimes you may have to pay someone to look at it, but most of the time you don't. You just send them the book, and they'll just review it, put it on their page, and you never know where it goes once it goes to somebody else's page.
So true. Now, I'm gonna make sure I link to Casey Boyd and
Hmm.
to Mr. Richard Ashby and also to Literacy Nation.
Using this technology that you would I guess 30 years ago, you would have to be like writing letters. Like, you couldn't reach
Right.
these many people, and to get them to all see your work and to make a decision and then decide whether they want to share it with their network. I mean, now you can make a contact or a relationship in a
Mhm.
day or two,
Yeah.
and I mean, people are ready and willing to share your work.
You're also an author of
Hmm.
multiple books. Let's talk about your books. Where would you say you want your books to be? What age range are your books for? And let's talk about your titles.
Well, the first book, my baby, my oldest baby, is The Adventures of Joshua and Pip. I published that in 2020. Um, it was based off of stories that I told my sons. I have twin sons, and I used to tell them bedtime stories. And so the first bedtime story I told them is what the book is about. I just wanted to say that I did it.
Mhm.
I had one. I told my sons I was going to do it, and they were holding me to it.
Good.
And they
That's
were holding me to it. And
accountability.
so I wanted to make sure I finished this process. I say, you know what? I don't do anything. I'm going to publish this book about a boy who's trying to fly a box down a hill.
Mhm.
And he goes through, he tries different ways to do it. And he gets, he goes through different emotions as he tries to do it. A friend comes, another kid comes to help him. And together they work together. And, they go ahead and they have a fun day together. And so, I mean, it's a wonderful book about working together. It's about emotions, about critical thinking, making friends. And then the second book is Adventures of Joshua and Pip, but it's Calvin the Catfish, and that's a story about about the boys going fishing and the things you got to go through when everybody else is catching fish except for you.
Oh,
So,
so many adult stories can go
yes,
into that.
indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So I always try to put some type of value. The last book that I published is called My Mother's Wildest Dreams. And this is where I was able to put my storytelling and my genealogy and my writing all together in one. I've been blessed to be able to put together a family tree that has over 1,000 names on it. And, so I know a lot of the mothers and the grandmothers and great grandmothers. I was actually writing a third Joshua and Pip book, but I took a break and I
Mhm.
started thinking about my mothers, just thinking about them and like how they, the different places they were in life, the different situations they were growing up in, and looking at all the kids they had, and and just kind of like how you need all your ancestors for you to be here. Like
Mhm.
there are so many ancestors, and so I went ahead and did that. And I was able, and again, social media. Like I did a lot of my preparing my book on Instagram. I found both of my illustrators for my books on Instagram. It's just about, the dreams and aspirations that black women in my family had to go through, to for me to be here.
Mhm.
And I just kind of walk you through the different mothers in the family, and down to my mother. At the end is my mother and me. And so for that one, like to me, that's a family book. That's
Mhm.
not that's there's no really no age to that. I want that book to encourage people to create family trees and to build their family history. That's something adults can read, children can read. But my first two books are more like birth to like maybe 5 or 6 years old.
Nice.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so
Good, good, good. Well, we will make sure to link 3 books and all
thank
of the other resources. You should see my trusty Post-it note.
yeah.
I have I have everything on here, even though it's 3 by 3. I make sure I can fit it all. That way I can link to everything that you share with us in the show notes. The folks you mentioned, the resources, dynamic insights that you shared. I am so grateful that you made time on today to meet with us and talk about what goes on at the library and how
Yes,
children's book
indeed.
authors can make that something that's a higher priority. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for having me. Remember, like, build those relationships. That's really number one in anything, any sphere, if you will, is just building those relationships. If you wanna if you wanna build a relationship with me, you can go to my website at www.theylivedhappily.com. They lived happily, like they lived happily ever after. My email is Mr. John at theylivehappily.com. On Instagram, I'm Mr. John underscore TLHEA, the initial They Live Happily Ever After. And so, yeah, let me know. Come on by and say
Awesome.
hello.
Mr. John, you have such a wealth of information, and that is your job. but,
That is
but
what
you do
I
it
try to
well.
do. That's
Yes,
what I
but
try to do.
you do it well, and
Thank
we
you
are
very much.
grateful for it. So
Well,
thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. I hope y'all
Y-
have a wonderful night.
It's my pleasure. You as well.